And now it's a walk down memory lane. This is my favorite segment of the podcast. I'm talking, of course, about the Android journey story. If you're a listener and would like to come on live and talk about your Android journey story, but would rather record and send it to us, then contact us via email at contactus@blindandroidusers.com. And now, here's this week's episode guest to talk about their Android journey story.
And now we move on to our Android Journey segment, a very popular segment. I'm delighted to say that we are joined, as you've heard already, by Kenny Hitt from Huntsville, Alabama. No South Park jokes, please, about, oh no, you've hit Kenny. We won't do that. Instead, I will hand over to Warren, who should always really drive this segment.
Thank you so much, Ed. Always, this is my favorite. And I'm so thankful that Kenny was here or rather is here to be with us and talk about his Android journey. Initially, Kenny was going to be here last week, but something came out of the blue, so he wasn't with us. And so I'm glad he's able to come this week, Kenny. We're so excited to have you come on. As always, this is my most favorite part of the Android episode that we do. Android journey is always something I always look forward to, and I hope that we'll have more and more people come on to talk about their Android journey stories. Kenny, you want to take us down that memory lane? You know, I know, of course, everyone's journey is always different, and where they were when they got started, some of the things that led them to starting on this Android journey and all of that. And then, of course, talk about all of the bumps in the road and things that made you want to swear or want to throw things out the window. Kenny, welcome to Android Journey Storytelling.
Yeah, thank you. I came to Android when I realized Nokia devices running Symbian were kind of on their way out. And I was in the Linux desktop world at the time, and Android was more appealing to me than the iPhone. So I started with Android 1.6. And the first phone I got was a mistake because it didn't have a physical keyboard. And back then, you had to have one. And so I got another phone, and I was lucky. It was Android 2.1. And it had the physical keyboard, but back then, everything, including Gmail, wasn't accessible yet. So you had to come up with third-party solutions for your dialer. You had to use Ice Free Shell for your launcher.
Beautiful thing, Ice Free Shell. Yeah,
it was hilarious. And as a matter of fact, I got lucky. I had Android 2.1, so a guy named Nolan was developing Spiel as an alternative to TalkBack back then. And he had an Android 2.0 device, so I got to help him debug it, his Spiel in 2.1, which was kind of fun. And I could do that because, Nolan is in the Linux world, so he built it in Scala. So you had to have a Linux desktop to compile it and generate the APK file. But yeah, I kind of lived the whole history of Android. I've used pretty much every version that's come out. Obviously, I skipped Honeycomb. And I was excited when I got Android 4 because we finally had touchscreen access.
Yeah.
Because up until then, it was strictly a trackball, a trackpad, or cursor keys on your keyboard.
Yeah.
And early when I started this process, I chose to opt in to being fully in the Google world. So I think it was on my 2.1 device where they asked you to start donating voice samples for voice input for your keyboard. So I've benefited from that because nobody else can wake up my Pixel now. And voice dictation is pretty good. Because like I said, I've been training the voice model for 11 years, 12 years? No, 13 years at this point. So it's kind of cool. But I've lived, like I said, the history of Android essentially. So when you guys were talking earlier about features and TalkBack coming and going, I can relate to that. That's just part of the Google culture. We actually had image descriptions and on-screen text twice before TalkBack offered it. Once with Google Lens, once with the What's on My Screen function in Google Assistant. Because I had a Pixel 3 and I really enjoyed having that feature because the Pixel 3 had this thing called Active Edge. So you squeeze the phone and that triggered assistant and keyboard input, and you could just touch the What's on My Screen button and it would describe your screen contents. But then they killed that feature. So it's a common thing in the Google world for them to
they
make
killed
features
that.
and kill them.
I love the squeezing. I think the last one that has that is the Pixel 4 series, which I still have.
Yeah, well, no, okay, the 4A 5G didn't, because that was my last 4 series. I
Yeah,
did. I
no,
skipped the
the
4.
regular
Yeah.
Pixel 4 series has it, but not the 4A or the 4A 5G.
Yeah, I had the 3, and then like I said, I kept it forever. It kept having bad USB ports, so it wasn't.
think
It
that
was more
actually,
disappointing than my original Pixel. That was probably the coolest one, and the one that permanently locked me into the Pixel world.
I think there's actually a more recent Android phone. I think HTC kept using that.
Yeah, they did, because they're the
Even
ones who made the Pixel 3.
yeah, I think they actually released. I could be wrong, but I think they released a phone that didn't even have a button that had the squeeze gesture. Like pretty
Yeah,
recent.
Android Faithful talked about it on this last week's show.
Yeah, yeah. That's
Yeah, I like those guys.
I'm not
'cause
going to
they're like
pretend
me. They love
I
the
knew it,
history.
but I was reminded when I listened to that podcast. So yeah.
Yeah, I started watching them back in the original days when it was Ron, Jason, and Eileen.
Oh wow.
And they were talking about
With
first
days.
spotting the Pixel, the Samsung Note in the wild with the original one.
Yeah, so the squeezing thing, came to us, via HTC because they were the ones that, and when Google acquired, some of their workers back then, we thought everything was going to be like that. And that's when we started having that. And I think it was the Pixel 2 that introduced that, wasn't it? I think it was.
Yes, I believe so.
Yeah.
I skipped the 2. I kept
Yeah.
my original one because that thing looked awesome. It was a chunk of aluminum, and they carved it out to put the fun stuff inside of it.
Yeah, I
And
have
back
all
then,
of
it ran
those.
Google Now, so it figured out when I was in the hospital and put itself in lockdown on its own, and stayed there
Yeah.
until after it saw I got home. There's nothing you could do to get out of it.
So you've mentioned that you've been around for a long time. So before there were Pixel devices, did you have a certain brand you were loyal to, or a preference, or did you just jump back and forth between
I
everything?
jumped around some because I started out as a T-Mobile customer. So like the phone I made the mistake on was a MyTouch 3G. And then I went to the MyTouch 3G Slide, and I had a G2. And that around 2011, we had a historical severe weather event here. And T-Mobile's network was one of the first to fail. And Verizon's was the only one to survive. So I migrated to Verizon after we recovered from that. So I used 2 droids, and then I got a Moto X 2014 because I wanted the phone with the leather back. That was cool. But then that got discontinued, and so I got a Nexus 6. And like I said, once the first Pixel came out, I got that, and then I've pretty much been locked in the Pixel ever since.
And how many Pixels have you had? Do you get one every year, or do you string your Pixels
Only
out?
recently. In the early days, I would do every 2 years. So like I had a 1, a 3, the 4A 5G, and then starting with the 6, unfortunately, I've had to get one every year because the hardware, they still haven't quite got it right yet.
I can tell you a thing or two about that. I might have commented there on the hardware, possibly.
Kenny, you've just awakened the belly acher that I call him, Ed. He calls it the Fisher Price. So
I think
you're
they got it
treading
right
on
this year, though.
that,
When you get the Pixel,
territory.
you'll be very happy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, when you get the Galaxy S24 Ultra, that is a big phone. One
It is
of
a
the
big
people helping me
phone.
at Kroger has that one, and they're thinking about going to a Pixel, and I got to look at that thing, and it was like, whoa, that's a tablet, man.
It's a
Yeah,
big
I
phone.
like them big. I don't mind. I don't mind them big. I
Well,
think
there's a
that's
limit. Like I like the size of my Pixel 8. It's the right size. I don't know. I right now, the 9 Pro will be my best choice because I don't think I could afford even the 9 Pro XL. And I probably should just stick with the 9, but it sounds like the 9 Pro might give me a few extra features and a longer lifespan, but we'll have to see.
You should get the 9 Pro because it's the same size with the regular 9.
Yeah.
And it has all the added stuff that comes with the
And you'll also get
Pro
the
XL.
free year of Gemini
Yeah.
Advanced, if that's something you're interested in. That
I'm not
doesn't
really
come-
interested. Like I've played around a little bit with AI, and what I really want is a reliable assistant like I've got now. I don't really care about the cute AI gimmicks so much.
Yeah, I agree.
It's not really appealing to me. So, for me, it's not a big deal. But one of the reasons I had to keep jumping from the 6 to 7 to the 8 was I became an edge case user for a Pixel. My cell company is my internet company now. And so the problem with the Pixels has been their modems are awful. So like my Pixel 8, when I'm just listening to a Pocket Cast or YouTube Music, it gets warm because it's using the cell modem. And so I'm hoping
Yeah,
to address that.
it's better now on the 9. And I think though that the good thing, or what I would like to see Google do, hopefully next year we'll have something better with moving away from Samsung being the manufacturer of some of their stuff. We'll probably get something better.
But I'm still paying on my Pixel 8, and I'm like, do I just want to wait till it's paid off, which would be about the time the Pixel 10 comes out? Can I live with this phone getting warm for another year? I mean, it's working. When I first got the Pixel 8, the modem would crash after every voice call, which is not good.
Oh gosh, I never seen that. That's extreme.
Like I said, you have to be someone
retained
like
that
me that
thing.
uses the cell network. If you're on Wi-Fi, it's not going to be such a problem for you. It's because I'm on a Wi-Fi connection now, but it's provided by my landlord. Everybody in the building can use it. It's low bandwidth. So because I was full-time on the cell network, when Verizon, because they do different network management than the other companies, when a voice call would come in, Verizon would tell the modem to drop to LTE, and the modem in the Pixel 8 couldn't deal with that. So when the call would end, it would just crash completely until you had no phone. And the June Android update finally got it to a point where it's stable now.
Yeah, because I took mine overseas this February, and I was there for a month. I never had any issues, with my network, and there was no Wi-Fi.
Yeah. Like I said, I don't have issues with the network. It's just weird little glitches that kept causing the thing to forget it had a phone. Like the other issue you would see, I'm in an area with C-band on Verizon. So what would happen initially was when you were out going down the highway, the modem would stay on a tower till it lost signal before it would jump to the next tower. So you'd have these points where you would just lose signal, and then it would jump to the next C-band tower. It never would downgrade to LTE or 5G. So it's just weird little things that kept causing me issues, and it forced me honestly to downgrade to an iPhone when that happened.
Now, did you get this phone from Verizon, or
Yes.
did you get a Verizon variant, or did you get? Okay.
I've got the Verizon variant because
Okay.
I'm on Verizon.
But
as
if
my
you
cell
get a
company.
Verizon variant, it shouldn't be doing that now. Because I could see if you had gotten said that lock, sometimes AT&T would do this, or even Verizon would say, "Oh, this one is not certified on our network because they want you to get their own, whatever." But I'm kind of perplexed that it was actually doing that with their own model of the phone. That's kind of,
as I said, it started doing that, but I got the feeling in the background because I'm on Visible actually, not Verizon postpaid. And you could tell the people at Verizon were actually trying to work with Google because, as I said, they did correct it. But Verizon's network management is different. You can't lock your phone to a certain cell network. So like I couldn't lock this Pixel down on LTE. I had to let Verizon decide. And so you'll see times of the day now where their LTE network is busy, so Verizon will kick my phone to C-band even if I'm not doing anything. It's just their network size.
Well, so see, I was thinking about jumping on Visible. Now I have to think
I love
twice.
it, man. It beats Google Fi.
Okay. I think I might jump on it because $25 unlimited
Visible
stuff
is
or whatever.
Yeah, Visible is my recommendation for most people. I mean, it's so set it and forget it. You have unlimited data, you have unlimited hotspot. I mean, it's throttled to 5 megabits.
10 now. Well, I'm on Visible Plus. On Visible
Okay.
Plus, it's 10 megabits. Now they updated it recently.
Which
but
I'm fine with.
C-band on the LTE ultra wideband, there are no restrictions. You can use all you want. They prefer you using that.
I was fine with just the base plan for $25 a month, where you only get 5 megabits hotspot, and my regular speeds were around 150. So I was like, I'm happy with this.
That's very good. Yeah.
Yeah. So I was pretty happy. That's usually what I recommend.
They don't throttle the cellular speeds. Is it just the hotspot speeds they throttle?
Yeah, no, like I said, Visible Plus here, okay, on LTE, I'm only around 80 meg down. On Visible, when I go to C-band, I'm 400 down. So I'm happy with that.
That's really good. So I might get on, and I don't do hotspotting. So that's not it's a non-issue for me. I'm not going to be worried about whether I'm getting 5 MBs or 10 MBs. I never hotspot anything, anyways.
Hotspotting for me is my son watching YouTube Kids on his tablet, and you don't need more than for I mean 5 megabits per second to do that, and just
Yeah.
having it be unlimited, because a lot of companies will say you get hotspot, but you only get this amount of data. With Visible, it's
That's
like, no,
true.
you can have unlimited hotspot. It's just at this speed, which I prefer.
Yeah, the
And
other
that's
thing
good
is they
enough
don't
to
drop
watch
your
Curious
priority very
George.
much. They don't punish you, so your internet is never slow and unreliable. Where T-Mobile used to do that a lot to MVNOs.
Yeah.
But be aware,
And
in my part of
Verizon,
the country,
sorry.
Verizon is great, but other places it's probably not. Like people on the West Coast really love T-Mobile because they seem to have a lot better there. But here in my part of the country, Verizon has the best rural coverage, and they've got pretty decent coverage, like I said, within the cities. So, and they've got good reliability when crap hits the fan and everything gets taken down, like your whole power grid.
Are they GSM or are they CDMA still?
They migrated to LTE when they went to 4G. They were CDMA on 3G. But one of the things that impressed me when I first got to them, with my, after the 2011 event, was T-Mobile's HSPA Plus network was garbage. Where CDMA started out with their 3G network was like 3 megabits down. You'd lose your data connection when a voice call came in, but you had good bandwidth. And then when they went to LTE here, they did their LTE on standalone bands, so it didn't interfere with their CDMA. And everything, ever since they switched to LTE, they've gone strictly to the GSM standards. So right now, I call it's 5G LTE, which is their LTE spectrum, and then C-band is like I said, it's their C-band spectrum, so it's standalone 5G.
No,
Yeah, so
that's
you
good.
mentioned, Kenny, the West Coast. So T-Mobile is headquartered right here in the Seattle, and here in Eastern Washington, where I'm at, T-Mobile is just kind of so-so. And when we moved into this house, I had to go outside to be able to make phone calls. And so hence the reason why I'm just not very happy about switching to T-Mobile, even though now Google Fi Wireless is exclusively T-Mobile. I don't observe that in the house anymore, but I guess that the first experience that's kind of kept me away from switching to T-Mobile. And that's the reason why I'm looking more at Verizon, because Verizon is one of the carriers in this area that has the strongest network. Then, of course, or US Cellular. Those are the two that have very good connectivity. Even AT&T sometimes not very good. So it's
their
just one of
spectrum
those.
choices. T-Mobile is all mid-band, which doesn't have good building penetration. That's why Verizon bragged when they deployed LTE, it was down on 700 megahertz, which means you can get it inside a concrete building.
Yeah.
And
So
it helped them deploy in rural Alabama because you could have good distances between the towers and still get good signal.
yeah. So I think I may try that Visible. I don't mind it.
Yeah, be aware it's eSIM only, which isn't a problem for me. I just be on a Wi-Fi network long enough to download and set up the eSIM, and you're good to go.
I have my daughter on it, so she's enjoying it.
Oh, she can give you the discount code.
Oh yeah, there we go.
No,
Oh yeah,
he
because I saw
already,
that this
he
morning
already
because Visible
promised to
told me
use
some
mine.
things got logged out of my account, and when I went to the app, they're like, "Hey, you could make some money, create a gift code for your friend, and get them to sign up."
So I'll keep it in the family, or maybe I'll get it from John. Thank you, guys.
The only downside is Verizon, basically, it's their prepaid cheap brand. So what happens is it's all single lines, and tech support is only through a chat in the app or a chat on the website. And up until recently, the Android app was good for chat sessions, but they broke it. The submit button disappeared. So you get into a chat situation and you can't send your chats anymore, which is kind of frustrating.
I'll then jump on the computer. Well,
Right.
you've
Well,
got
on Chrome OS.
Yeah, you got to cut corners somewhere to be able to give such a good price. And so I understand where they're coming from, because Verizon has so many of those. They have their own total, which used to belong to someone else on their network. Now they bought it back. And so it's very interesting that we have these MVNOs, and it's a good way to save money. So I think Visible.
I'm very
will be
happy with
fun.
it. I'm not complaining at all with the service. They've won my business over.
And US Cellular, that's a proper network, is it, that owns some stuff? It's not a virtual network operator.
No, it's not a virtual. But they're selling some of their stuff off, and so it used to be on, the Google Fi, was utilizing US Cellular and Sprint and T-Mobile. And what I liked about it is that if you go to an area and there's a weak connection, let's say my home had better connectivity on US Cellular, and then I got to an area where US Cellular is weak, then it will jump onto either Sprint or T-Mobile if any of those two have better connectivity. So now it's just basically T-Mobile, since they no
Yeah, that's
longer
what
have
turned me
access.
off to them was
Yeah,
just that when
yeah,
everything merged together and just became just T-Mobile. And like I said, I
yeah,
don't have reliable Wi-Fi anymore. When I had reliable
Yeah.
Wi-Fi, it made sense to get their cheapest plan because I had like $20 monthly phone bills.
yeah.
But
But they're very stingy on the. I mean, it's $10 per gig. The reason
right.
why I keep
And worse than that, if you get their unlimited plan on Google Fi, when you hit the limit, they brutally throttle you down to dial-up speeds.
so
Where
the
if
only
you
reason I
theoretically hit
like
the
it.
limit on Visible, all they're going to do is drop your priority slightly, and I've never encountered it. So
Yeah, I just like it when I travel around, the world or go to some other country, because instantaneously I have access to whatever network they latch onto there. But frankly, I think now with the eSIMs and all of that, I could just prepare an eSIM when I'm traveling. That's what I did for my daughter when she was going to Europe this summer. And so I'm just gonna, I think maybe at the end of this month I may migrate to Visible, and I'll become visible.
yeah, it's
And,
funny they're
just-
starting to run ads to poke at T-Mobile because Mint Mobile is now actually a T-Mobile MVNO. So Visible's having a little fun poking at them.
Nice. And just going back to the early part of your journey, Kenny, you talked
Mhm.
about Android 1.6. When was that?
2010.
That was a cupcake, right? I think 1.6. Yeah, I think that was
Yeah,
cupcake.
that was Cupcake.
Yeah,
Because my next
Yeah.
phone was Eclair
I
and
love the
then
cupcake.
Froyo and our man on Jelly Bean forever.
Yeah. So was there a choice for you when you left Symbian? Was iOS accessible at the time? I guess
It just
2010
become
it just about
accessible with the
was.
3GS. The friends I had in the Linux world,
Yeah.
we were in the Symbian world, and then he went to the Apple world with the 3GS, and I went to Android. And at the
Mhm.
time, Apple was already ahead of Android, but because Android took the same models you had in the Linux desktop world, by getting the users involved, and you were able to catch up really fast. There was a point where
Yeah.
actually Android accessibility got ahead of Apple, but then it kind of slowed down and changed, and Apple got ahead of us. I
Yeah.
remember having image descriptions back on an iPhone 11, and like I said, they existed with Google Assistant, and then for a little while with Google Lens, but they weren't in TalkBack.
And they took them away. Yeah.
Well, I never
Interesting.
had it in TalkBack. It was the Assistant killed the read it function. Lens became a shopping app.
Yeah.
So it just kind of changed over time. And then they took TalkBack development private, and I don't know what's happening after that. I've applied to be a tester twice, and they never didn't get back to me. So I'm like, oh well, I'll just be a user. I've been doing debugging for decades. I won't post a bug report if I can't reproduce it. I guess I'm considered an advanced Android user because I've been doing it so long. There was a time you had to be. And my Linux background makes it easy because all Android is actually is a customized Linux distro.
I can't prevent myself from commenting here because, the closed beta testing of TalkBack is one of the controversial decisions, let's say. Well, there were issues. You're in the United States and they are not letting you in. So I don't know what's the problem. Although you have the experience, you have the capabilities, but they are not letting you in. And in other parts of the world, just because you are in a certain country, you won't be able to be in. No way. So I think this is all should be changed if they want really to improve TalkBack. And okay, the way it was with eyes free, maybe it wasn't the best thing or it wasn't the best procedure, but I think they could have found a better solution, a better way to deal with this. But yeah, they decided to go with the easiest way, with the simple thing. which is to have a closed beta testing group, and they just let in whoever they want. And then it will be like a secret, like you feel like you're dealing with something related to state secrets or something, I don't know, because it's so much, they try to make it so much secretive. It doesn't need this at all. So I think, yeah, I think that what you said really gives or confirms that what's happening is not really what should be happening with a screen reader that is built into Android, that is the built-in screen reader that everyone is using, that's an international thing, and that needs the users' feedback to improve and to thrive. So yeah, thank you for mentioning this.
That's when it made its most progress. And the other thing they did that finally was real discouraging to me was they outsourced disability support to a subcontractor and didn't require basic training. So I had a bug a couple of years ago where when they started putting ads in your Discover feed, the website, the block ad button on the web page didn't work. And I made the mistake of contacting Google Disability Support, and the person I talked to didn't know what a screen reader was. And I got a little annoyed, and I follow Google Accessibility on Twitter, so I just publicly shamed them over that one. And somebody higher up in the company got back with me, and he just admitted to me that they don't require anybody to run Android even. And, you know, I offered to help them, and they said they couldn't. And I'm like, okay. And so that really pushed me away. And like I said, I really considered the Apple world for a while just to get good support, but I've been in the Android world too long. I can't downgrade to an iPhone, and I probably couldn't even downgrade to it wouldn't be a downgrade's not polite maybe, but I don't think I could even switch to a Samsung phone because I've been so spoiled by the Pixel intelligence from the beginning. You know, it's just, I'm blocked into the Pixel world.
I agree that I think the beta should be open. They do it with Messages, Gmail, the Google app, Google Assistant, you know, all of these apps you could just enroll in the beta. Why is it any different with TalkBack? You should just be able to go to the Play Store and enroll in the beta and submit feedback like you can with any other app.
I think the problem is what they were running into, and we used to have this problem in the Linux Speak Up world all the time, where you have a lot of blind people who just say it doesn't work, and they don't understand that if you want the problem solved, you've got to learn a little bit and work with the people. And so IceFree kept getting really bad with that. The Google Accessibility Group has gotten bad with that. You have people demanding everything in the Google world on the web pages should work with a browser that hasn't supported web standards 25 years ago. And what are you going to do? They're just going to yell at you. That wears you down after a while.
You know, if you go into Reddit or wherever else, I mean, some of our you know, some of the blind people who don't comment in the most constructive way, but I think that's true of everyone, isn't it?
Yeah, you're right. It's just, I guess I'm more aware of it because I've worked with, you know, improving accessibility for a couple of decades. And it's just frustrating to have somebody demand you fix something that, like, I don't have access to your stuff, man. You got to give me data. And they don't want to hear that.
So let me go back to history slightly. Before IceFree became a requirement, joining IceFree became a requirement to be a beta tester, there was a page where you can download TalkBack versions, beta versions, and IceFree, of course, wasn't joining IceFree wasn't a requirement at all to be to use beta versions. Of course, Play Store wasn't having the beta thing at that time, so it was the way to have betas using a web page, because Play Store didn't offer the enrolling in beta at that time. And there was a page where you can submit issues. It was like the normal thing where you can put the steps to reproduce and stuff, and there were also feature requests. So it was the normal way of dealing with betas. So they decided to go and make the IceFree thing a requirement, which wasn't really necessary, in my opinion. And I don't think that the issues page is still available. So why to remove also the issues page where you could submit an issue like this thing with everything else, and where you can request features and where you can comment on issues. So all of that was done by Google itself. It removed those things and now it can't say that, okay, we removed that, but the other thing didn't work, so we have to go to closed testing, because the thing was, it was right and they did it wrong. So they can't correct the wrong thing by doing something which is a bigger mistake.
Well, part of that was the reason for the requirement for eyes free was in the early days, the talkback developers were also users. And when they took it private, they had a staff turnover. And at that point, the new developer wasn't clearly a screen reader user, because we reported 2 bugs that anybody who used talkback with the last public beta would have known were major bugs. And they released it without fixing them. And so they took it private. And like I said, they seem to have a major staff turnover around that same time, because Victor left. He was the last person I know for sure that actually depended on talkback just to have access to his phone. So I don't know, it just was a real major change in their whole approach to accessibility. The eyes-free group initially was there because at that point, not even all phones supported the limited accessibility in Android 1.6. So everybody was having to find third-party apps to do things like be a reliable phone dialer, be a reliable caller ID announcer. Initially, we had to use third-party mail clients like K9 Mail because Gmail wasn't accessible yet. So eyes-free just became a place where blind people could find apps that we could use just to get basic functions of our phone, because Android accessibility hadn't gotten that far ahead yet. Like I said, eyes-free Shell was a launcher originally. And you had to use it if you wanted to see signal strength, battery level, reliably launch apps, current time. I didn't get away from eyes-free launcher until Gingerbread. And at that point, the Droid, based on Motorola, their interface was actually pretty much accessible. And then even after that, you know, eyes-free still had the people who actually used the product every day that were developing it. So that was the best place to get in touch with the developers.
Yeah, but the point that I was trying to say that okay, eyes-free itself was good. It was good to have a good communication with Google support. And yeah, Victor was the only one that we could talk with, actually. But the thing is that, okay, they could have the eyes-free and keep the contacting, but they have to also keep the page of the beta versions, or keep the ability to have issues submitted in the right way, and to have the issue tracking stuff, and to have the feature request stuff. So this could be just more organized. This is the point. So.
Oh, I agree. This is the Google culture. That's the advantage and the disadvantage to the Google world. Just like the monolithic approach of Apple is its advantage and its disadvantage. It makes it easier for them to support all of their hardware and software, and it's easier for them to hire support people for the screen reader, but everything is locked down more. So I don't know, you know, for me, I just like Android better. But yeah, they've really changed their culture.
Well, thank you so much, Ken, for that wonderful Android journey story. And we really thank you for coming on. We enjoy that story. And like I've always said, you know, feel free to come back if you want to come back anytime to participate, you know, as a guest. Always, you know, you're welcome to it. And we do want to say again, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. Yeah, Android has had a very interesting history over the decades. Hard to believe it's almost 14 years.
And, you know, in closing about that, I just want to mention something you said earlier about getting into the Pixel world and never wanting to get out. I think there was an Android Central or Android Authority contributor that wrote about, you know, jumping into the Android Pixel motel and you can get out. And that's exactly how I feel. I can't go back to a different phone. I used to be a staunch Samsung guy. And ever since I jumped onto the Pixel, I could never see me going back.
Yeah, that was a lady in Android Authority. She had to import.
Yes,
first.
I think it's Rita El Khoury. Yeah, Rita El Khoury or somebody. Yeah, she said she can get out.